I thought I had it all figured out. At 34, I owned a digital marketing agency I built from nothing, a house I bought with my own savings, and I had just proposed to the woman I believed was my future. Tiffany said yes with tears of joy streaming down her face. Everything felt perfect. Then she started talking about the prenup, and suddenly the woman I thought I knew began showing a side I had never seen. What happened next taught me that sometimes the people we trust most are the ones we should watch closest. Before we dive into how trust can crumble faster than you would ever imagine, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments. Hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to hear how I turned the tables on someone who thought I was just another easy target. Now let me take you back to where it all started to fall apart. Let me paint you a picture of who I was before Tiffany walked into my life. 6 years ago, when I was 28, I took the biggest risk of my career and started my own digital marketing agency. Those first couple of years were brutal. I worked 16-hour days, slept in my office, more times than I care to admit, and survived on instant ramen and black coffee. But slowly, painfully, it started to pay off. By the time I turned 30, I had hired my first employee. Now, at 34, I had a team of 12 talented people, and steady revenue, and clients who actually respected the work we did. 2 years before starting my business, when I was 26, I bought my first house. It was not anything fancy, just a 3-bedroom ranch in the suburbs with a decent backyard and enough space for an office. I remember the day I signed those papers, my hand shaking as I wrote my name over and over. That house represented everything I had worked for. Every payment came from my own sweat and sacrifice. Nobody handed me anything. Nobody co-signed. It was mine completely and utterly mine. My life was good, peaceful even. Sure, I was single and sometimes lonely on quiet Sunday mornings, but I had built something real. I had friends, family nearby, and work that challenged me. I was not looking for someone to complete me because I did not feel incomplete. But then 18 months ago, my buddy Jake invited me to a networking event downtown, and that is where I met Tiffany. She was 29, worked in the fashion industry, and had this way of lighting up a room when she walked in. We started talking by the bar, and I found myself laughing more than I had in months. She asked intelligent questions about my business, seemed genuinely interested in what I did, and did not immediately pull out her phone to check Instagram every 5 minutes, like so many dates before her. We exchanged numbers that night, and 3 days later we went to dinner. The first few months felt like something out of a romantic movie. Tiffany would come over after work, and we would cook together in my kitchen. She made this incredible pasta dish with homemade sauce that I still remember. We would talk for hours about everything and nothing. She supported my long work hours, never complained when I had to take client calls during dates, and even gave me solid advice on a branding problem I was having with a difficult customer. After 6 months, I introduced her to my parents, Robert and Linda, and my younger sister, Harper. They fell in love with her immediately. My mom pulled me aside that first dinner and whispered that Tiffany seemed like a keeper. Harper, who is usually skeptical of anyone I date, actually texted me later saying she approved. Even my dad, who rarely shows emotion about anything, smiled more that evening than I had seen in years. What impressed me most was how Tiffany seemed not to care about money. When I offered to take her to expensive restaurants, she would suggest we cook at home instead. She drove an older Honda, wore clothes she said were mostly thrifted, and always insisted on splitting bills. I told my mom I loved that she was not materialistic, that she valued experiences and connection over stuff. Looking back now, I realize how carefully she had crafted that image. After 14 months together, I knew I wanted to marry her. I planned a proposal at Giovanni's, this little Italian restaurant where we had our third date. I got down on one knee right there between the tables, while some old Frank Sinatra song played in the background. She cried, said yes immediately, and kissed me so hard I almost fell over. Everyone in the restaurant applauded. It felt like the happiest moment of my life. For the first 2 weeks after the engagement, everything was bliss. We talked about wedding dates, potential venues, which friends we would invite. Tiffany seemed excited, but not obsessed with having some massive, expensive ceremony. She said she just wanted something intimate and meaningful. Once again, I thought I had found someone who valued the right things. Then, one Tuesday evening, as we sat on my couch, looking at potential wedding venues on her laptop, she casually brought up the prenup. "You know," she said, her voice light and conversational, "we should probably think about getting a prenup, just to protect both of us." I actually felt relieved. I had been wondering how to bring up that exact topic without seeming unromantic or distrustful. A prenup made sense. We both had our own lives and assets before meeting. I told her I thought that was a mature and practical idea. But then her next sentence made my stomach tighten just a little. "I think we should split everything equally," she said, still looking at her laptop screen. "That is only fair, right? What is yours becomes ours. What is mine becomes ours. That is what marriage means." I nodded slowly, but something felt off. I pointed out gently that I had bought my house and built my business before we even met. She smiled, patted my hand, and said we could talk details later. But her tone had shifted slightly. There was something harder underneath the sweetness. The following week she brought it up again. This time she was more specific. "The house will be ours, obviously," she said while we were watching television. "And the business too. I mean, I will be your wife. I will be contributing to our life together. If something ever happened, I should have my fair share." I tried to explain that in most prenups, assets acquired before marriage stay with the original owner. She looked disappointed, almost hurt, but did not push it. Instead, she went quiet for the rest of the evening. I felt guilty, like I had wounded her somehow, even though I had only stated a basic legal fact. A week later, Tiffany came home with a folder in her hand and an excited smile on her face. "I talked to a lawyer friend of mine," she announced, "and she helped me draft a prenup for us, just to make things easier." She handed me the folder, with the confidence of someone who expected me to be grateful. I opened it, started reading, and felt my blood go cold. The document stated clearly that upon marriage, not if we divorced, but the moment we said our vows, I would transfer 50% ownership of my house and 50% of my business to Tiffany, just like that, immediately. I read it 3 times to make sure I was understanding correctly. This was not about protecting assets in case of divorce. This was about her taking half of everything I owned the second we got married. I looked up at her, genuinely confused. "Why would ownership transfer immediately?" I asked. She did not miss a beat. "Because I will be your wife, Quinn. I will be contributing to our life. This way we start, as true equals." "Is that not what partnership means?" I tried to stay calm. I explained that a fair prenup would protect what each of us brought into the marriage, and then split anything we built together afterward. She shook her head, her expression hardening. "So you do not trust me," she said flatly. "You think I am going to take advantage of you." I told her that was not it at all, but she cut me off. "Then why would not you want to share with me? I thought you loved me." That night she slept in the guest room. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I had somehow become the villain in a story I did not understand. Over the next 2 weeks, the pressure intensified in ways I had never experienced. Tiffany stopped being subtle. Every conversation somehow circled back to the prenup. She would bring it up over breakfast, during car rides, even when we were supposed to be relaxing and watching a movie. Her tactics evolved from hurt disappointment to full emotional manipulation. She cried, asking why I did not love her enough to trust her. She went silent for hours, making me feel like I had committed some terrible crime. She brought up examples of other couples who shared everything and made it work. Then she escalated. One Saturday afternoon, her mother, Diane, showed up unannounced at my door. Tiffany had apparently called her, crying about how I was treating her unfairly. Diane walked into my living room like she owned it, sat down without being invited, and proceeded to lecture me about what her daughter deserved. "Tiffany is a catch," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "She could have married anyone. She chose you. The least you can do is treat her with respect and give her what she is owed." I tried to explain my position calmly, But Diane was not interested in hearing it. She accused me of being selfish, controlling, and old-fashioned. She said if I really loved Tiffany, I would want to share everything with her. She even suggested that I was secretly planning to leave Tiffany after the wedding, which is why I was protecting my assets. The accusation was so absurd and insulting that I actually laughed, which only made her angrier. After she left, Tiffany refused to speak to me for 2 days. She stayed in the guest room, ordered her own food, and acted like I was a stranger in my own house. By the 3rd week of this nightmare, I was exhausted. The constant fighting and cold shoulders were wearing me down. I started questioning myself. Was I being unreasonable? Was I putting money before love? Tiffany was skilled at making me feel guilty. She would catch me at vulnerable moments, late at night or early in the morning, and whisper how hurt she was, how she never thought I would be this kind of person. Finally, one Friday evening, I decided we needed to have a serious conversation and resolve this once and for all. I came home from work, determined to find a compromise, some middle ground we could both live with. But when I walked through the door, Tiffany was waiting with another copy of her prenup, this one freshly printed. I had my lawyer revise it, she said. I took it hoping she had finally listened to me. But as I read through the pages, I realized nothing had changed. She still wanted 50% of my house and 50% of my business effective immediately upon marriage. Tiffany, I said, trying to keep my voice level, this is not reasonable. I am willing to do a prenup that protects both of us fairly, but I cannot give you half of things I built before I even knew you existed. Her face transformed. The mask of sweetness and hurt finally dropped, and what I saw underneath chilled me. She slammed her hand on the kitchen counter, making me jump. You are so selfish, she shouted. You do not deserve me. I have wasted 18 months of my life on someone who does not even value me enough to share what he has. I stood there stunned. She grabbed the prenup off the counter and threw it at me. The papers scattered across the floor. If you do not sign this, we are done, she hissed. I am not going to marry someone who treats me like I am some kind of gold digger. Either you trust me and sign, or I walk out that door right now. For a moment, I almost caved. The thought of losing her, of being alone again, made my chest tight. But then something clicked. I looked at this woman, really looked at her, and realized I did not recognize her anymore. Or maybe I was finally seeing who she had been all along. If that is what you want, I said quietly, then you can leave. She stared at me, her mouth literally hanging open. I do not think she expected me to call her bluff. For several long seconds we just stood there in silence. Then her entire demeanor changed again. The anger vanished, replaced by tears. She rushed toward me, grabbing my arms. No, no, baby. I am sorry, she sobbed. I did not mean it. I am just stressed about the wedding. Please, let's just forget about the prenup for now. We can talk about it later. But I was done. I think we need some space, I told her. Let's both take a few days to think about what we really want. She nodded, wiping her tears, and agreed. She said she would stay at her mother's place for the weekend. After she left, I sat in my kitchen, emotionally drained, wondering how I had gotten to this point. 2 days later, on Sunday afternoon, Tiffany texted, saying she was going out with friends and would be back Monday. I was home alone, trying to focus on work, when I noticed her laptop sitting on the dining room table. She must have forgotten it in her rush to leave. The screen was still on, and I could see her email was open. I was not planning to snoop. I really was not. But as I walked past, to close the laptop, a new email notification popped up on the screen. The subject line read, "R.E. Your situation. Advice." My curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on it. The email was from someone named Stephanie, apparently Tiffany's best friend. My stomach dropped as I read, "Girl, you just have to be patient. He will sign eventually. Men always cave when you cry enough. Remember, once you get that 50%, you just need to wait a couple years and then you can divorce him and walk away with serious money. Derek said you should look for guys with houses and small businesses. They are easier to manipulate than corporate executives who have lawyers on speed dial." I felt like I had been punched in the gut. My hands were shaking as I scrolled down through the email chain. There were messages going back, months long before the engagement. I found one from shortly after we started dating seriously, where Tiffany wrote, "I did some research on Quinn. His business is worth at least $500,000, maybe more. The house is paid off worth around $300,000. If I play this right, I could walk away with $400,000 or more after a few years of marriage. Not bad for someone who is not even that attractive." I could not breathe. Each email I read was worse than the last. There were discussions about the best way to lock me down, debates about whether she should pretend to be pregnant to speed things up, and even a conversation about how long she should wait after marriage before filing for divorce. One email from someone I assumed was this: Derek person advised her to make him think you are not materialistic at first. Offer to split bills, drive a cheap car, dress down. Then, after engagement, slowly introduce the prenup idea like it was your lawyer's suggestion, not yours. They had planned everything. Every sweet gesture, every supportive word, every moment I thought was genuine, had been calculated and performed. I was not her partner. I was a mark, a target, a transaction. I grabbed my phone and started taking screenshots of every email. I sent them all to my own email address, making sure I had copies of everything. Then I carefully closed the laptop and put it back exactly where I had found it. For the next hour, I sat on my couch, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to trash the house, to scream, to call her immediately and unleash everything I was feeling. But another part of me, the part that built a business from nothing, knew that revenge served cold is always more effective. I needed a plan. I needed to be smart about this. So I called Jake. Jake has been my best friend since college, and conveniently he is also a lawyer. When I told him I needed to see him immediately about something urgent, he heard the tone in my voice and told me to come to his office right away, even though it was Sunday. 40 minutes later, I was sitting across from him, showing him every screenshot I had taken. His face went from concerned to shocked to absolutely furious as he read through them. "This is fraud," he said, finally looking up at me. "This is not just a bad relationship, Quinn. She entered into this relationship with the explicit intention to deceive you for financial gain. This is actionable." I asked him what I should do. Jake leaned back in his chair, thinking. "We have two options," he said. "Option 1, you confront her privately, break off the engagement, and hope she goes quietly. Option 2, we set a trap and expose her publicly so she cannot twist the narrative or try to salvage her reputation to do this to someone else." I thought about it. Part of me just wanted this to be over, to send her away and never see her again. But then I thought about the next guy she would target, the next person she would deceive and manipulate. I thought about how she would probably tell everyone I was the bad guy, that I led her on and broke her heart. "Option 2, I said. "What did you have in mind?" Jake smiled, and I recognized that look. It was the same expression he got in college when we were planning elaborate pranks. "We schedule an official prenup signing," he explained. "Tell her you have changed your mind, and you are ready to sign her version. Make it formal at my office. Invite both families, make it seem like a standard legal procedure. Then right before signatures go on paper, we present all the evidence. Everyone sees who she really is." "No," he said, she said. "No room for her to spin it later. Just cold, hard proof." The plan took 3 days to set up. Jake drafted a fake prenup that matched what Tiffany wanted, making it look official and ready to sign. Meanwhile, I had to go home and pretend everything was fine. When Tiffany returned Monday evening, I greeted her with a hug and told her I had been doing a lot of thinking. "You were right," I said, forcing the words out. "I was being stubborn and scared. If I love you, I should be willing to share everything with you. I will sign the prenup your way." Her face lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. She threw her arms around me, squealing with joy. "Really? You mean it? You are not just saying this?" I nodded, holding her tight and feeling sick to my stomach. "I love you," I told her. "I want you to feel secure and equal in this marriage. So yes, I will sign." She immediately pulled out her phone and started calling people. I heard her tell her mother then, Stephanie then, several other friends. Each time her voice was giddy with excitement. Not once did she say she was happy because we were going to get married. It was all about the prenup, the house, the business. The next morning I called my parents and Harper, telling them I needed them to come to Jake's office Friday afternoon for the prenup signing. My mom was hesitant. "Honey, are you sure about this?" she asked. "This does not feel right." I told her to trust me, and that everything would make sense soon. Harper, who had developed some reservations about Tiffany over the past month, immediately said she would be there. Meanwhile, Tiffany invited her mother Diane and her friend Stephanie. She told me it would be good to have support from both sides. I agreed, knowing that the more witnesses we had, the better. Jake scheduled everything for Friday at 2 in the afternoon, giving us just enough time to prepare and making sure everyone could attend. The waiting was torture. I had to spend 3 more days living with Tiffany, pretending to be excited about our future, while knowing exactly what she had planned for me. Thursday night, Tiffany made a special dinner to celebrate. She opened a bottle of expensive wine, put on music, and told me how happy she was that we had worked through our issues. "I knew you would come around," she said, raising her glass. "You just needed time to realize that this is what is best for both of us. We are going to be so happy together, Quinn. I promise." I clinked my glass against hers and smiled, even though I wanted to throw up. Friday arrived. I woke up with my heart pounding, rehearsing in my mind how everything would unfold. Tiffany spent over an hour getting ready, choosing a designer dress she said she bought just for this occasion. She did her makeup carefully, styled her hair, and even put on the expensive perfume I bought her for her birthday. "I want to look perfect for this," she explained. "This is such an important day for us." I just nodded, wondering if she realized how prophetic those words would turn out to be. We arrived at Jake's office at 1:45. My parents and Harper were already there, sitting in the conference room. My dad shook my hand firmly, his eyes asking questions I could not answer yet. Harper hugged me and whispered, "Whatever happens, I have got your back." A few minutes later, Diane and Stephanie showed up. Diane looked smug, like she had won some victory. Stephanie was all smiles, complimenting Tiffany on her dress and taking selfies. At exactly 2 o'clock, Jake called everyone into the conference room. It was a nice space, with a long table, leather chairs, and a large screen mounted on one wall. Tiffany sat next to me, holding my hand, her face glowing with anticipation. Jake began with formalities, explaining that we were here to review and potentially sign a prenuptial agreement between myself and Tiffany. He placed a copy of the document in front of each of us. Tiffany picked it up immediately, her eyes scanning the pages. I could see her mentally checking off each clause, making sure everything was as she wanted it. After a moment, she smiled and nodded at me. "This looks perfect," she said softly. Jake continued asking if there were any questions before we proceeded. Diane spoke up, saying she thought this was a very mature and fair way to start a marriage. I almost laughed at the irony. "Actually," I said, my voice cutting through the pleasantries, "I do have a few questions before we sign anything." Tiffany looked at me, her expression curious but not worried. "What is it, honey?" she asked sweetly. I turned to face her directly. "I need to know something," I said slowly. "Do you actually love me? Or is this just about my house and my business?" The room went silent. Tiffany's smile faltered for just a second before she recovered. "Of course I love you, Quinn," she said, reaching for my hand. "Why would you even ask that?" I pulled my hand away. "Because I found some emails on your laptop that suggest otherwise." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice suddenly shaky. I nodded to Jake. He clicked a button on his laptop, and the large screen on the wall lit up. Email after email appeared, blown up large enough for everyone in the room to read clearly. I watched as Diane's confident expression crumbled. I saw Stephanie sink lower in her chair. I heard my mother gasp, and my father mutter something under his breath. But mostly I watched Tiffany as the color drained completely from her face. Jake began reading selected excerpts out loud, his lawyer voice clear and damning. Quote, "He will sign eventually. Men always cave when you cry enough. Once you get that 50%, You just need to wait a couple years and divorce him." End quote. He moved to the next email. Quote, "I did some research on Quinn. His business is worth at least $500,000. If I play this right, I could walk away with $400,000 or more." End quote. He pulled up another. Quote, "Make him think you are not materialistic at first. Then after engagement, slowly introduce the prenup like it was your lawyer's suggestion." End quote. Tiffany tried to interrupt, her voice desperate. "Those are taken out of context. It was just girl talk, we were joking around." But Jake kept reading, pulling up message after message showing dates and timestamps. There was no context that could explain away what everyone was seeing. Diane stood up, her voice shrill. "This is fabricated. You are making this up to hurt my daughter." I finally spoke, my voice eerily calm, considering the rage boiling inside me. "These are screenshots from Tiffany's own email account, taken from her laptop, with timestamps and IP addresses that Jake has verified. This is not fabricated, Diane. This is who your daughter really is." Harper was the next to speak, her voice shaking with anger. "You were going to steal from my brother. You were planning to use him, and then leave. What kind of person does that?" Tiffany's supposed best friend and co-conspirator, tried to defend them. "You are all misunderstanding," she said. "We were just talking about worst-case scenarios. Every woman thinks about these things." Jake shut her down immediately. "No," he said firmly. "Not every woman enters a relationship with the premeditated intention to commit fraud. Because that is what this is. Legally speaking, this is fraud." Tiffany started crying, but these tears were different from all the ones I had seen before. These were not manipulative tears designed to make me feel guilty. These were tears of genuine panic and shame. She knew she had been caught completely and utterly exposed. "Quinn, please," she begged. "Let me explain. I can explain everything." I stood up, looking down at her. "There is nothing to explain. I know exactly who you are now. I should have seen it sooner, but I guess I wanted to believe the person you were pretending to be was real." My father spoke for the first time, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Young lady, you should be ashamed of yourself. My son worked his entire adult life to build what he has. You thought you could just walk in and take it. What kind of values did your mother teach you?" Diane tried to respond, but my mother cut her off. "Do not even start, Diane. You knew about this. I saw your face when those emails appeared. You were not surprised. You were in on it." I took a breath and delivered the speech I had been rehearsing. "Tiffany, our engagement is over, effective immediately. You have 48 hours to remove all of your belongings from my house. If you do this quietly, I will not pursue any legal action, and I will not share any of this information with anyone outside this room. But if you try to harass me, stalk me, or spread lies about me, I will make every single one of these emails public. Do you understand?" She nodded, still crying, unable to look at anyone. Stephanie grabbed her purse and stood up, clearly wanting to escape. Diane looked like she wanted to say something, but the fight had gone out of her. Jake added one final warning. "Miss Tiffany, my client is being extraordinarily generous by not pressing charges. I would strongly suggest you take this offer and disappear from his life. Because if you push him, I will personally make sure you face every legal consequence available." My family and I walked out of that conference room together. As we left, I heard Tiffany sobbing behind us, heard Diane hissing angry whispers at her daughter. But I did not look back. Harper linked her arm through mine. "I am so proud of you," she said quietly. My mom squeezed my other hand. My dad clapped me on the shoulder. We went to a quiet restaurant nearby, and for the first time in weeks I felt like I could breathe. The next 48 hours were strange. Tiffany came to the house Sunday morning while I was at my parents' place. She left her key on the kitchen counter, took all her belongings, and was gone by the time I returned that evening. The only thing she left behind was the engagement ring, sitting in a small box in the center of the dining room table. No note. No apology. Just the ring. I picked it up, looked at it for a long moment, and then put it in my desk drawer. I was not sure what I would do with it eventually. Sell it maybe, or keep it as a reminder. Either way, I did not want to think about it right then. The house felt different without her in it. Emptier, yes, but also cleaner somehow. Like a dark cloud had lifted and I could finally see clearly again. The days after that were hard in ways I had not expected. I was not sad about losing Tiffany, because I realized I had never really had her in the first place. What made me sad was realizing how completely I had been fooled. I kept replaying moments from our relationship, seeing them now with fresh eyes. That time she insisted on cooking at home instead of going to a restaurant. I thought she was being humble and sweet. Now I knew she was building a character, playing a role. When she said she loved watching me work on my business, I thought she admired my drive. Now I understood she was calculating its value. My family checked on me constantly those first few days. Harper came over with takeout and stayed to watch stupid comedies with me. My mom called every morning to make sure I was eating. My dad stopped by on his lunch breaks, not saying much, just being present. Their support meant everything, but I still felt hollow inside. It is a special kind of pain to realize that someone you planned a future with saw you only as a financial opportunity. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into projects, took on new clients, stayed at the office until late every night. My team noticed something was different, but nobody pushed me to talk about it. Jake stopped by the office a few times, ostensibly to grab lunch, but really to make sure I was holding up okay. "You did the right thing," he kept telling me. "I know it hurts now, but you saved yourself from something so much worse." About 3 weeks after everything imploded, I started feeling something shift inside me. The hurt began transforming into something else. Not bitterness exactly, but clarity. I started exercising again, something I had let slide during the relationship. I reconnected with friends I had been neglecting. I said yes when Jake invited me to go hiking on weekends. Slowly, day by day, I started to feel less like a victim and more like myself again. One evening, about a month after the confrontation, Jake and I were sitting on my back deck with beers watching the sunset. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you regret any of it? Meeting her, proposing, all of it?" I thought about it for a long time before answering. "I regret being blind," I finally said. "I regret ignoring little warning signs because I wanted so badly to believe in something. But I do not regret learning the lesson. Some lessons cost money. This one cost me time and emotional energy, but it could have cost me so much more." Around the 2-month mark, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Tiffany was dating someone new. Apparently he was some executive at a pharmaceutical company, drove a luxury car, lived in a penthouse downtown. I felt nothing when I heard the news. No jealousy, no anger, not even satisfaction. Just a vague hope that maybe this guy would be smarter than I was, that he would see through her act before it was too late. Harper asked me if I was going to warn him. I thought about it but decided against it. "If I reach out, I am the crazy ex who cannot let go," I explained. "Besides, maybe she has changed. Maybe seeing herself exposed like that made her rethink her choices." Harper looked skeptical, and honestly, so was I. But it was not my job to save every person who crossed Tiffany's path. I had to focus on moving forward with my own life. 3 months after everything ended, I found myself actually happy. Not just okay, not just surviving, but genuinely happy. My business was thriving. We signed 2 major clients that brought in more revenue than I had projected for the entire year. I promoted 2 of my team members, hired 3 more people, and moved into a bigger office space. The house that Tiffany had wanted so badly felt like mine again. Every room reclaimed and refreshed. I started dating casually, nothing serious, just coffee or dinner with women I met through friends or work events. I was honest with everyone from the start about not being ready for anything intense. Most of them appreciated the transparency. A few became friends. One woman, an entrepreneur named Lauren, who ran her own graphic design studio, became a good friend and occasional hiking partner. There was no romantic chemistry between us, but she was smart and funny and had her own story about a relationship gone wrong. We understood each other. One night, sitting alone in my living room with my laptop open and some jazz playing softly in the background, I realized something profound. The person I had been when I met Tiffany was someone who equated being alone with being lonely. I had been so focused on finding a partner that I forgot to appreciate what I had already built. That version of me was vulnerable in a way that made me an easy target. But the person I was now, the person I had become through this painful experience, understood that being alone and being lonely are two completely different things. I thought about everything I had learned. Tiffany taught me, unintentionally, that actions always reveal true intentions eventually. She taught me that manipulation often hides behind tears and sweet words. She taught me that someone who truly loves you would never ask you to sacrifice what you have worked your whole life to build. Most importantly, she taught me that walking away from something that looks perfect but feels wrong is not weakness, it is wisdom. 6 months after the disaster at Jake's office, I was having dinner with my family when Harper brought up the subject I had been avoiding. "Have you thought about dating seriously again?" she asked. My mom shot her a warning look, but I smiled. Eventually, I said, "But this time I am going to be smarter. I am going to watch what people do, not just listen to what they say. I am going to trust my instincts when something feels off. And I am never, ever going to let anyone make me feel guilty for protecting what I have worked to create." My dad raised his glass. "That is my boy," he said. "You know the strongest steel gets forged in the hottest fire. You came through this stronger than before. Some men never learn that lesson. They get burned over and over because they refuse to see the truth. You saw it, dealt with it, and moved on. That takes real strength." We clinked glasses, and I felt a wave of gratitude for these people who stood by me, even when I was too blind to see what was right in front of me. As I write this now, almost a year has passed since that Friday in Jake's office. I still have the engagement ring in my desk drawer. Sometimes I open it and look at it not with pain, but as a reminder that I am worth more than someone's financial plan. A reminder that genuine love does not come with a price tag or a contract designed to strip you of everything you have built. A reminder that the best thing I ever did was trust my instinct and call her bluff. My business is more successful than ever. My house is still mine, filled with memories I am making on my own terms. I have deep friendships, a close family, and work that fulfills me. Am I dating anyone seriously? Not yet, but I am not in a hurry. Because I learned that being whole on your own is the only way to find someone who complements your life, rather than trying to take it over. Would I have preferred to learn these lessons a different way? Sure. Would I go back and avoid meeting Tiffany altogether if I could? I am honestly not sure. Because as painful as it was, that experience taught me who I am at my core. It taught me that I have the strength to stand up for myself, even when it would be easier to give in. It taught me that my worth is not determined by whether someone chooses to stay or leave. And most importantly, it taught me that the right person, when I eventually meet them, will never ask me to prove my love by surrendering my life's work. So here I am, 35 years old, single, running a business I built with my own hands, living in a house I earned every square foot of, surrounded by people who love me for who I am rather than what I have. Tiffany wanted to take half of what I owned. Instead, she ended up with nothing, and I ended up with everything that truly matters. Sometimes the best victory is not what you gain, but what you refuse to lose. And I refuse to lose myself. To anyone watching who has ever felt pressured to give up what they worked for, who has ever been made to feel guilty for having boundaries, who has ever wondered if they were being too suspicious or too careful, let me tell you this: trust your instincts. Protect what you have built. Real love never demands that you sacrifice your security or your hard work. Real love respects what you have accomplished. Real love wants to build alongside you, not take what you already built. And if someone cannot understand that they are not the right person for you, no matter how perfect they seem, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have signed the prenup to keep the peace, or would you have walked away like I did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear it, please hit that like button, share this video with them, and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about standing up for yourself when it matters most. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for being part of this community. I hope my story helps you trust yourself a little more and stand a little firmer when someone tries to make you question your worth. Stay strong out there, and remember that sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. Take care.